isn't it? I mean, it's entrancing. Jaya Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar Jaya Kapishati Huloka Ujagar Rama Duta Atulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Mahavira Vikrama Bajarangi Kumati Nivara Sumati Ke Sangi, and so on. You don't have to sing it. You can do just that.
That was almost a rap.
Namaste. You're listening to the Sivana Podcast. Join us on an exploration of Eastern spirituality, yoga philosophy, and conscious living for the new age. This podcast is a production of SivanaSpirit.com, where you can find a large selection of Om and yoga clothing, spiritual jewelry, and unique fair trade gifts from the Far East. Now here's your host, Ashton Sabo.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Sivana Podcast. We have another great show in store for today. We're going to be talking about the Hanuman Chalisa. It's a poem, a devotional hymn to Hanuman believed to have been written in the 16th century by the Indian poet Tulsidas. It has been popularized in the West in part from singers like Krishnadas, who has an entire book and album devoted to the Hanuman Chalisa. Here to talk with us today about the Chalisa is a devotional singer and former monk, Naren Schreiner. Naren recently joined us on the podcast in episode 85 to talk about Bhakti Yoga. And today, he's going to tell us all about the Hanuman Chalisa. If you want to know more about Naren's story and his journey as a monk within Paramahansa Yogananda's Self-Realization Fellowship, I encourage you to listen to episode 85 for more of the details on Naren's life. For today, we're going to start by diving right into things. Really happy to have Naren on the show again today. Naren, welcome.
Thank you, Ashton. Good to be here.
Good to have you. So we've talked before, and we were talking about Bhakti Yoga, and we're going to shift things now, of course, to the Hanuman Chalisa, which is an amazing poem. It's something that is done in the light of Bhakti Yoga, that is chanted. Let's start with how you were initially introduced to the Hanuman Chalisa. I mean, you were a monk for 14 years with Paramahansa Yogananda's lineage. You've been a long-time yogi. When did you first encounter the Chalisa?
I encountered the Chalisa. I heard it. I didn't even know it was the Chalisa. So I was just listening to different kinds of devotional music from India and some CDs. And when I heard that song, it just mesmerized me because it has like a cadence to it, like a rhythm that's just almost mesmerizing, just again and again and again. And then I heard the name Hanuman at the very end. And I thought, wow, this whole thing that I just listened to was all to Hanuman. What is that? And then I started finding out what it was. And but that was before I joined the ashrams. So at that time, I had so much going on in my life that it kind of stayed in my heart, but I didn't pursue it any further at that time.
So our listeners are very likely familiar with Hanuman because I tell his stories all the time on the show, and I'm a big devotee of Hanuman. But let's perhaps for people that haven't listened to any of those episodes before, let's talk very briefly about who Hanuman is, and perhaps even a little historical context of the Hanuman Chalisa itself. Like, where is it coming from?
Okay. Well, the Hanuman as a divine being, as a devotee, as a warrior, as a bhakti, there's so many ways of defining him. His life and his story appears in the Ramayana, which is a scripture in the Puranas, and it tells the tale and the legend of Sri Ram and rescuing Sita from the clutches of Ravana, the demon, and how Hanuman helped. And in that story, it's actually like a scripture. And so we see about what devotion looks like, and we start to learn about the power and the capability that Hanuman has, but also just the devotion that he had to Rama and the humility, the strength, the wisdom. So that mostly shows up in the Ramayana. Then there's also a lot of other scriptures and poems and that have been inspired by that telling. And probably, to my knowledge, the greatest was Tulsidas, which was around 1600s in India. And he wrote a lot about Sri Ram, about the Ramayana, and about Hanuman. And he wrote the Hanuman Chalisa. And the Hanuman Chalisa, from that point on, became revered as not just a poem, but almost like some revered as a mantra. Like each line is a powerful mantra. And since then, it's just been chanted nonstop by devotees, and the number just keeps growing and growing and growing, and now it's worldwide.
So, do you have a favorite verse of the Chalisa?
There's many verses that are my favorite. The Chalisa has kind of like different moods within it. So sometimes it's saying, like Hanuman will always be there when you chant Rama's name, or Hanuman always protects the devotees who call out to him. But then there's simple ones. The one that so many people know, Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai, Kripa Karaho Gurudev Kinai. Victory, victory, victory to Hanuman. These kinds of the sentiment. One of them that that is I've actually chant quite a bit is whenever I'm feeling a little spooked out, like if I'm in a weird part of town or something. There's a verse about Hanuman kind of scaring away demons and protecting from like ghostly spirits and stuff. So
I actually have a verse of the Hanuman Chalisa tattooed around my wrist, and it's by your grace all difficult tasks are made easy, which for me is a reminder of so much of this, so many of the ways that I try to control my own life. I sometimes forget about grace, that like, you know what? It's kind of out of our hands anyway. So I mean, sure, do what you got to do, but ultimately the divine's got its own plans. Open yourself up to grace instead of trying to like fit the world into the box that you want. Figure out the shape of the world and go with that, and then things become easy. And that's something that's really profound with that story to me. Why, what do you think is this enduring quality of the Chalisa? I mean, why has it lasted so long? Why are there so many people still chanting and reading the Chalisa today?
I think part of it is that the composer Tulsidas, he imbued it with such a power. Not only was he considered a great saint and a great devotee who had so much shakti in his devotion, but just as a writer, my friends who are native to India say that the words are just so beautiful. Kind of like, I'm just saying Shakespeare, but really, just different authors. They write something, and then that, for some reason, that just becomes immortal for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's one of the reasons, I think. But also just the way he wrote it, he composed it in a very rhythmic kind of a mood that fits singing very well. And so when it became, it doesn't have to be sung like a song, but it fits into songs very well. I think that's one thing that can help immortalize things, because music usually lives longer. Then,
well, and we know too, when you sing something, it's stuck into the memory a lot more than if you're just saying things. So that's always a very beneficial thing to do, that most cultures of the world have done, especially in India, where they're chanting sutras and things like that to help with memories. I mean, they're chanting it for many reasons, but absolutely.
The voice, I mean, it's chanted. It's meant to be a chant. Some scriptures are meant to be read, and studied and contemplated. Others are meant to be recited, and the power is in their recitation and their practice. But I believe that Hanuman himself blessed the Hanuman Chalisa, and because Hanuman appeared to Tulsidas, there was a profound connection there. So I just think that, and that idea of having 40 verses Chalisa, so new. And so it was just a shining light that just came into the middle of a very difficult time in India. India was like under foreign rule and there were wars going on. So, I mean, this all happened. And I think the reason why it's continued too is because Hanuman is so endearing to so many different devotees, because Hanuman is revered like a god, yet he's a servant. He's not on the throne. He's serving Rama on the throne. And so I think we can connect with Hanuman more because we see ourselves like, well, we're striving. We're not at the level, that we're aspiring to. Even though Hanuman is so powerful, he mastered all of the siddhis that Patanjali writes about, but he was cursed to forget that he had power, because when he was a kid, he misused them. I mean, just imagine giving
wily little monkey.
Yeah, and so he was cursed to forget, and that really that's something that I feel a lot of seekers, on a spiritual path experience, where they're being told what we're all being told. There's divinity within you. Your soul is perfect. You have all these powers. You can bring anything into your life, whatever you want. You're made in the image of God. We hear all these things, but we forget all the time and get discouraged and get down. And Hanuman experienced that. He would doubt himself. He'd forget. And everyone around him would have to rouse him and remind him, you can do this. And partly is singing the Hanuman Chalisa is that. But also it reminds us, I think, of what we can do when we live in our hearts and live devoted and strive, to be humble and courageous and compassionate. And I think that's another reason why it's just endured. It connects. It's not like some distant, obscure scripture. Yeah.
Well, and you're talking about this remembrance. One of my favorite short aspect of the many stories of Hanuman but it's a very famous and popular image, is of him, tearing his chest open. And the story is that, he's ripping open his chest to show that Sita and Ram are inside of him, but not as his, I'm doing this to put myself through this torture for whatever. It's to remind us. So everyone's been there helping to remind Hanuman that he is divine, but ultimately, as the servant again, he's there to help remind us that divinity is in us. Because he's the story is, Sita gives him a necklace for being the bravest warrior in this battle against Ravana the demon, and he starts, he's a monkey, so he's like, oh, what's this? And he's smelling it and he's licking it, and like everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is so disrespectful. He bites into it, and people freak out, and they're like, Hanuman, that's extremely disrespectful. The princess gave you this gift, and he's like, well, I just wanted to see if my Lord Rama was inside, and they're like, what are you talking about? He's right over there, and he's like, no, Rama's inside everything, and they're like, that's just crazy. Rama's sitting right there, and he's like, no, look, Rama's inside all of us. I'll show you, and tears open his chest, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. That again, it's not doing it for oneself; it's doing it for the benefit of others, which I think is super powerful. What's the overall story and context within the Chalisa itself? Like, what is it telling us about Hanuman?
Well, the first part of it, so it's kind of like a summary. You have the first part that defines his qualities. So it's kind of like Hanuman is, and then it goes on and it describes his qualities. The king of the monkeys, he's a messenger of Lord Rama, etc. It goes on. You're a great warrior. You're filled with these different qualities, and this is actually it can go pretty deep. That's purposeful. It's intentional. It's first defining Sri Hanuman. It's almost like a dhyanam or a meditation on his qualities, and then it shifts to what he did, and it kind of summarizes him fulfilling the mission that Lord Rama gave him, and how he, and then if you know the Ramayana, you see all the summaries. He took the gigantic form, you went into Lanka, you killed many demons, you brought that special herb to save Lakshman, etc. So it goes through the actions that he did. And that's a really important part. Then it starts to talk about what happens when we attune ourselves with Hanuman. So Tulsidas then kind of defines, after all of the tasks are accomplished, then he's like saying, those who attune with you, if we attune ourselves with your life, with Hanuman, we will feel joy. We will start to feel courage. You remove difficulties from our life, etc. So then it goes on like that. Your glory is, radiant through all the world's praise. It starts to move into praise. And then some of the promises of what can be experienced when we actually chant the Hanuman Chalisa. So it will, for example, the last few verses saying that, difficulties, sufferings in our lives can be destroyed the more that we attune our lives with Hanuman. And then it says, this is common in India, they will have what's called a Phula Stuti, which means verses that describe the fruits of what you've done. He who recites the Hanuman Chalisa 100 times is released from bondage of birth and death and enjoys absolute bliss in immortality.
Done. Got it right there. 100 times. Get it done. You've knocked it off the list.
So that's, that can definitely be literal, or it can just be poetically interpreted. Some have said, some of the gurus have said that 100 times in one sitting. Yeah. Which is quite a different tapasya.
Indeed, because it takes about 10 minutes to sing, 9 or 8 to 10 minutes to sing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things I appreciate about Hanuman as well, for those whether or not they're familiar with the story of the Ramayana, is that Ram, who symbolizes the Godhead, the great divinity, he's also kind of inaccessible. He's so true to Dharma. He's always making that choice that is the right thing to do based on his role in society. And, in some ways, or at least in that respect, I see some similarities that I notice with people with Christians in Jesus, where it's like, he's so pure, like I can't relate to that. Like I don't want to just love everybody and do the right thing all the time. Sometimes I kind of want to be mischievous and a rascal. Sometimes my anger gets the best of me. I mean, Hanuman burns down Lanka to kind of show Ravana, like, haha, like he has these moments, as you said, of forgetting. And so instead of trying to like go straight to that sort of unrelatable, untouchable thing, you've got this vehicle of Hanuman that's like, hey, I'm just like you, like I'm an incarnation of Shiva. I am the totality of being coming into the world, not to be like sort of the American idea, like, hey, I need to be as big as I can be and look at me and aren't I famous and wonderful, but rather like, I'm the servant. I mean, not only is he a servant to Rama, he's not even the king of monkeys. Sugriva's the king of monkeys. So he comes in not only as like this amazing being, but he's not like, hey, I want to rule over everybody. I want to be the most famous, the most important. He's like, no, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve the world. I'm here to serve Ram. And I think it's such a, at least for me, I mean, I can definitely relate to that desire for service so much more than like the purity of like, I'm not perfect. I can't relate to Ram, but I can relate to Hanuman. I'm like, man, yeah, I might not be perfect, but like, I love people. I want to serve them more. And so Hanuman gives us that great example of like the flawed hero where he's not perfect, but he's trying his best. And that to me is something that is really honorable for us all to do, is to, in essence, try our best.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you have a favorite story of Hanuman?
Well, you told.
Sorry.
but there's a version of it that is a little different at the end. So please. Where we have the opening of his heart to show. But in that same story where he has the pearls, mm-hmm. and he's biting it, and everyone's shocked, like how could you do that? And then people start to criticize him and ask Ram to almost like punish him. How could you let him do this? And he asks, so this is the variation that I had heard a long time ago. He asks Ram, Sri Ram asks Sri Hanuman, why did you do that? And he said, because I couldn't find you in the pearls. Everything that I want, everything that I look for, I'm looking for you in it. I'm looking for you. So then they still didn't understand. So Sri Ram walked over to Hanuman and called people over, and he pulled a hair off of Hanuman. And then he held the hair up to Sita's ear and other people's ear, and all they could hear was Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. And so then they all understood that even every hair on Hanuman's body was just resounding with the name of Shri Ram.
And there's a nice thing. I mean, even though we, might say that, the divine is in everything, the idea that that Ram isn't in the pearl. I mean, he's not in that. You're not going to find him in that external thing. It's like, yes, he's present in everything, but when you go seeking for it in the external, in the beautiful things, in the shiny things, you miss it because really it's inside of you already. So what you're seeking for is actually inside. It's not to say that the divine isn't everywhere, but rather what you're seeking for is on the inside, not the outside, which is something I really like about that. So, for the average yoga practitioner, there are people that might have a natural calling to Hanuman and all that, and so in which case, this is a natural progression of that. But for those that maybe they're just kind of, all right, I'm interested in yoga and I'm interested in the deeper elements of it. I'm not here just to stretch my body. What might they get from chanting the Chalisa or just getting to know it more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, anyone who feels drawn to Hanuman is not average. so if you feel that call, just follow that and read the Ramayana. There's different. It's a very important story. It's entertaining. It's engaging. There's a lot of in there, and listen. Start by just listening to the Hanuman Chalisa. Get a picture of Hanuman and keep him near. Just you'll see. It takes a life of its own. Yes, it's challenging especially if someone doesn't have any experience with learning, Sanskrit or anything, to suddenly just take on 40 verses.
Yeah, and they don't get like repetitive. You're not sitting here like a regular song. It's like a new line every single line.
It's really challenging. I would say, I have for years, I would always read the Hanuman Chalisa. I didn't ever say I'm going to memorize it. Don't overwhelm yourself. But there's books that you can find, online or anywhere that have the translation as well. It's wonderful just to get familiar with it. Just read the English, just so you kind of know what it's saying, and find some recordings. There's a lot out there. Look on YouTube. I'm not just going to plug my own recordings.
But you do have your own recording of the...
I do. But there's others. Find one that really moves you, that touches your heart. I actually have been telling a lot of people to listen to more than one, because Hanuman Chalisa is so multifaceted that you want to hear it in different ways. So find like your 5 most favorite Hanuman Chalisas and listen to them, kind of rotate them, hear different parts of it. And yes, listen to it while you're driving, listen to it any time. But also, I've made it, it's a practice. It's a sadhana. You can listen to it early morning, before you start your day. Days that are really important for practice worship of Hanuman are Tuesdays and Saturdays. That's partly for astrological reasons. Tuesday is associated with Mars. Saturday is Saturn. And Hanuman has a boon from Saturn. So people who are going through difficult Saturn phases in their astrology often do Hanuman Puja or chant Hanuman Chalisa, because Hanuman can protect one from that. And he's also connected with Mars. So Tuesdays, Saturdays at least, or every day. And make it a practice, not just listening to a song, although I do that a lot. Before your meditation or before your yoga practice or after, or even if you're facing some kind of a difficulty in life, like I've got this thing coming up, listen, just sit quietly somewhere in a sacred corner of your house or outside somewhere with headphones and just listen to the Hanuman Chalisa and really feel what's happening within your heart and in your mind, and feel yourself being calmed, feel the courage rising up. And if you know more or less the English meaning of it, that's a great place to start. That's totally easy. Anyone can do that. And from there, just let it take you where it takes you, and you might have this desire to learn more how to chant it. And that's kind of a next step. And I do encourage people. I know it's overwhelming, but I've never met somebody who's regretted learning the Hanuman. Mm-hmm. Even if you sing the Hindi while you're reading it, you don't have to memorize it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's. I mean, admittedly, that's what I still do. I mean, if I'm with it, like I have it in front of me to read it, because it's a lot of words, especially if you're not really into Sanskrit. I mean, it's a lot of words that are very close together, and a lot of letters and consonants, and so it can be overwhelming. But as you said, just that repetition, that listening to it, just like anything. Like most people, if you were to ask them to sing a particular song, they can't recall it. But if you were to put it on, they're sitting there and they're at least singing maybe like 70%, like, yeah, and I love da 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 da, and that's okay too. Because I'd say, and I'd be curious on your opinion on this, what's more important? And I'm sure there's different opinions, but the devotion behind it or the grammar behind it with the Hanuman Chalisa?
Yeah, devotion is always most important. Devotion is supreme. So someone with a lot of devotion could mispronounce it and go really deep. But connected with devotion is also respect. Respect for the fact that this is a sacred chant that millions and millions of devout people from India chant. And so at least just to have a little bit of that respect, just like we want to have a respect for yoga, my Indian friends, they kind of joke around, and one of them said, well, it is our language, it's someone's language. So to not just overtly disregard it and just kind of butcher it and just be a real gringo about it, but not to also stress so much, and be so finicky about pronunciation. I have found that by learning the pronunciation, it kind of forces me indirectly to go deeper into the chant. Mm. And I would say it's similar with Hatha Yoga. If I asked you, Ashton, because you're way, way, way better at any kind of Hatha Yoga than I could ever be. If I said, Ashton, what's more important, that my toe is, 3 millimeters away from my knee on this pose, or that I'm breathing deeply and feeling the prana flowing through my entire body?
Totally.
It's like, okay. Yeah. But that when you really go deep into perfecting those physical asanas and standing back and looking at somebody's lines and looking at the alignment of the muscles, the difference. You've experienced it. It's the same with the pronunciation and with the chanting. The more perfect you get, the better it is, but it doesn't mean that that's more important than devotion or more important than the flow of prana.
Well, both in the context of the amount of devotion, but also specifically on pronunciation, I want to take the opportunity now to actually tell our listeners that you have not only a course on the Hanuman Chalisa, but you have a free course on the Hanuman Chalisa to learn it, which is incredible. And you go very much into accurate pronunciation of everything, which I think is great. Tell us more about the course that you have for the Chalisa.
Yeah, I really wanted to do it because I had a lot of students coming to me over the past few years just asking for help with the Hanuman Chalisa. And so with Bose, who works with me at Sangita Yoga, she's an amazing pronunciation coach. She's helped me with my pronunciation over the years. So what we started doing was people were asking us in the local area here to have a Hanuman Chalisa intensive, over a few weeks or over a weekend. And so we did that at various yoga centers. And the interest was just really, and Lopa, they said, this is amazing that people from the West are working so hard to learn such a difficult chant. Mm. She was deeply moved, and she would always say to everyone, I'm so touched that you are respecting and desiring this part of my culture. And she said, the doors are open to all of you. Mm. And that's the beautiful thing about India. The doors are open. So because we kept getting more requests, we decided, let's just film it. And so we put it out into 8 courses. So each video really goes slow. And there's also some recordings that you can download. some MP3s of Lopa just going word for word really slowly. And you can just listen to it over and over while you drive, a slow one and a fast one. We have the PDF up there, everything. So I tried to make it easy as possible. And really, the desire in my heart is that it can just be easier for Westerners, but also there's so many Indians and Indian families who are signing up so that their children will learn it, because children would rather learn something on an iPad than in person these days, right? So it's like, oh, it's on a computer course. It's easy. You can fit it into your busy schedule. You know, people are just so busy these days. And so this is just an effort. And that's why it brings me a lot of joy to be able to make it free for people all over. I'm so excited, Ashton, when people sign up, you know, from Australia, from South Africa, from Italy, from Brazil, everywhere. So,
awesome.
Grass Valley.
That's right. So you mentioned it right there, but let's just kind of flesh that out in terms of where can people find the course? Where can they find out more about you? You have a lot of different offerings, both in devotional music, workshops. Where can people find out about all that stuff?
Yeah, just go to sangitayoga.com. So it's SANGITA, sangitayoga.com. And there you'll see all the different things that we offer. There's a picture on that homepage of Hanumanji. You can click on that. It takes you to courses.sangitayoga.com, and that's where the Hanuman Chalisa course is, and it's easy to sign up and then just start away at it.
Awesome. Well, I love it because, I mean, if for people that have been listening to our show for a long time, I talk about Hanuman as often as I can. If I can fit him into a conversation, I will find a way to fit Hanuman in a conversation. So I hope some of that devotion has come through to our listeners, and they've been inspired to want to find out more and more. So I hope they do go to your website, check out the course, give it a whirl with trying to learn this a little bit more, even if they feel like, well, that's the biggest thing in the West that I encounter all the time. I'm not a singer. I don't sing. It's like, well, because we come from a culture where they say, like, ew, don't sing. Well, how are you ever supposed to get better at singing if you don't sing? Where everywhere else in the world, it seems like not only do they not really care how great or good you're singing, they just want to sing together all the time. So it's like, okay, like you can acknowledge a very trained and skillful voice, but at the same time, we've talked about, it's about the devotion. Like, how are you just singing the song with the pure, love inside of you, whatever it is? And that's the most important thing. So whether or not you have a trained musical voice or any of that sort of stuff,
it's not a song. It's a sacred chant. It's almost like a mantra. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just jump into it, because even if you recite it, and I recite it a lot. I just start, Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukara Sudhar. It has a rhythm that sounds like spoken word poetry. You can rap it. It's just the devotion.
I want to hear that one. I want that one to be your next release, if that's okay.
I'm not a good MC.
If you could rap the Hanuman Chalisa, I've heard who's it, MC Yogi do some Hanuman chants, but he's never done the Hanuman Chalisa. I want to see that one.
When I say rapping, I mean you can recite it with rhythm. Okay, I can't rap. I'm not an MC. I have too much respect for real hip hop that I wouldn't even try. But really, because it's got such a rhythm. Isn't it? I mean, it's entrancing. Jaya Hanumana Jnana Guna Sagar Jaya Kapish Tihu Loka Ujagar Rama Duta Atulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Mahavira Vikrama Bajarangi Kumati Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi, and so on. You don't have to sing it. You can do just that.
That was almost a rap. I think you got more skills than you think. All right. Well, Naren, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about the Chalisa. I appreciate you and all the work, but in particular, I'm such a devotee of Hanuman that any chance we get to really dive into it, I'm so excited about. So I'm so appreciative of you coming on to talk about it today.
Thanks so much, Ashton. I hope I can come up to your neck of the woods someday and just worship Hanuman, do some yoga, chant together.
I would love that. You're welcome anytime. I mean, you can see the video in the background. This is just my studio. There's plenty of Hanuman over there, and few harmoniums and drums around. So that invitation's always there, brother.
All right, thank you.
Well, for everybody listening, I hope you've learned something. I really encourage you to go check out Sangita Yoga, check out the course on the Hanuman Chalisa, and give it a whirl. It really is an amazing thing. It was one of the things in my first yoga teacher training that I taught for my school. I had my good friend Octavio Salvato. He came in and taught it, amongst other things, but he taught that, and that was part of our training every day for the teacher training, was they'd come and sing the Chalisa. So it's so great. It's such an amazing poem and mantra. Please check it out. Thank you all so much for listening today. I hope you all have a very present moment. Namaste. Hey everybody, it's Ashton here with an announcement. We're starting a weekly contest giveaway over at Sivana Spirit. If you'd like to enter into the contest to win one of our weekly prizes, go to sivanaspirit.com/contest. If you enjoyed listening to the podcast today, we'd really appreciate it if you went over to iTunes, left us a review, leave us some comments, and share this podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. Also want to invite you to go check out Sivana East, which is the name of our blog and also the name of a Facebook group where I interact with guests and our audience. We'll post recent episodes up there as well as interesting articles relating to our guests and or the topics on the shows. And again, thank you so much for listening. Namaste.
You've been listening to the Sivana Podcast. To find out more about Sivana, go to sivanaspirit.com or follow Sivana on Facebook at facebook.com/Sivana Spirit. For daily inspiration, check out our blog at sivanaeast.com. Be sure to join us next week for a new episode, and thank you for listening to the Sivana Podcast.